after those wonderful motivational talk by the minister, I fear I'll bore you this afternoon. So let me very quick. Madam said, I have a prepared stuff, but Madam said all of us should imagine how the urban economy is going to be. So I thought I'll set aside the prepared stuff a bit and start this imaginary process, because as economists, we'll keep thinking about the economy all the time. One point is very clear, that 10, 15 or 5 years from now, skill premium is going to increase. A lot of work will be done by machines and very few skilled people will be in the organized sector. Now what about the rest of us? Rest of us who are not very, very high skilled. Which is the engine of growth? Which is the engine of jobs? There's a wonderful book called The New Geography of Jobs by Enrico Moretti. The main area where most people are likely to be employed is called this non-tradable sector, where you give localized services, which is where the urban economy becomes very, very important. In fact, his estimate is anywhere between 70 to 80% of the jobs, because there will be very few people who will be doing this high-tech stuff and making a lot of money, and there will be a lot of others who will not be able to do this high-tech. What will they do? Producing, and that's where non-tradable sector, non-tradable is where localized, where you make food, deliver stuff, and which is not competed away. The best part about this non-tradable sector is, think about hairstylists 30 years ago and today. The labor component almost remains the same. It hasn't changed much compared to automobile manufacturing, compared to any kind of organized manufacturing. The labor component hasn't changed. Think about making dosas. What's the labor component 40 years ago versus today? Hasn't changed much. Unlikely to change another 30 years. Whereas think about any kind of sophisticated, coding, for instance. Now coding is just putting a problem in ChatGPT, done. Labor component is gone. Whereas, so if you want to think about jobs, this becomes a very, very important sector. This is not just from an equity point of view, just to make sure that people have enough jobs. The urban non-tradable sector is a very, very big engine of growth. And that is why I think governments all over the world, and especially countries like India, should think about it. So that's my starting point, which I thought after Madam said, I started thinking about the economy, why this is very, very important. So I'm going to focus on credit. As ministers have said, our human resources and this urban economy, the whole thing started with India. We have forgotten this. What we now call as Sindhu Saraswati civilization. If there was no urban life anywhere in the world, and we had organized cities. And this is one wonderful book, this is written in 1900, Robert Sewell. About Vijayanagar Empire. I come from Karnataka, so keep boasting about Vijayanagar, right? So just look at the quotation here. People are selling gems and jewelry, and this is not some rabid right-wing nationalist talking, right? This is all Portuguese accounts of how, these are travelers, scholars at that time. This is a book written in 1900, not today. Right, people selling gems and jewelry on the streets, and I can go on. This was the kind of, so this urban economy is not new to us. Somehow we forgot all of this in between. And as Minister said, that Honorable Minister said, we have to rediscover our skills and do well. And as Madam said initially, this is a large segment of the population. And I don't want to bore you with numbers. There are many sources, multiple sources say different things, but by far the largest employment generator. The point I'm trying to make is it is going to increase, not decrease. Because of this transformation that is happening, if you think that those are making will be less fashionable, no, it will be more fashionable. And the salaries are going to increase. Think about, this is funny. So think about salary of, where are lawyers paid more? Silicon Valley or New York? The answer is Silicon Valley, not New York. Because as the incomes increase, the premium wage skill, same driver in a city versus in a village, salaries are different. So that is why, people moving to urban areas is going to increase. So we have to worry, as Madam said, we have to worry about infrastructure and things like that. This is a growing area. If those of you are associated with this is like IT 20, 30 years ago. That may be a declining area from jobs. This is one of the fastest, this is going to be the fastest growing area in terms of jobs. Tourism, all kinds of localized stuff. So now I'm going to focus on, but what is the issue here? Technically speaking, the issue here is, there are many issues, but I'm going to focus on one, which is access to credit. When we say access to credit, technically speaking, what does it mean? You have rate of return, which is much higher than interest rate, but nobody is willing to lend you. You have a business where if you put in some money, what we call as marginal return is much higher than what bank would charge as interest rate. That means chance of default are very low, but still banks are not lending. This is called a credit constraint or access to credit. This is an issue that a lot of urban vendors face. Now, give you a simple example. I know this. I brought in economics. This is a lady I met. She was selling fish, right? So the problem is a lot of fish, demand supply you can't match all the time. And if they're left out, what do? You throw them. She had an idea of making fish pakoras in the evening. The only thing is she doesn't have equipment, it's not that lack of skills. As Honorable Minister said, there is idea, there is talent and all of that. And there is a viable business, there is demand also. The problem is you have to buy some equipment, you may have to hire some people. So this lady got this Swanidhi loan and I can introduce you to her. She's from Telangana. And now she's making her business has gone up 4 times. Fish business has stopped, fish pakoda business has come. She bought gas, she bought a lot of utensils, and she started a restaurant. Many such, access to credit is one of the major problem, and this is where, PM Swanidhi comes in. PM Swanidhi is one scheme. We have studied it because I have only 2-3 minutes left. So PM Swanidhi has been a game changer this way. Because in every other credit, think about, we have had financial inclusion schemes. We have Mudra, we have priority sector long before that. What happens here is, those who approach bank, those who are bankable get credit, or maybe slightly less than that. This is one scheme where the bank went to people. Like one of the 2 schemes which are most successful in this government after 2014 are, one is PM Jandan, another one is PM Swanidhi. In both these cases, what happened is service provider went to the poor. In PM Jandan, it was like they opened bank account. Here they went and gave credit. The fear is when you do that almost everyone defaults. This is one fear. This is one segment that has not happened. We have studied this carefully. They are in single-digit default rate. Which is, unsecured loan, single-digit default rate, high single digits, but it's unbelievable. Nowhere in the world this has happened. People would expect 50% default rate. And not only that, we are finding evidence that these people are graduating. What is happening is almost half of them are now borrowing from outside. So this is one, as again, Honorable Minister said, that we have to be enablers and government has to be an enabler. This is a perfect example. How there is a market failure, government comes in, gives credit, creates data, now private sector gets in and start lending. So there are multiple stories like that, which I can go on. But the point I'm trying to make is the sector that we are associated with, somebody like me studying, those of you are directly associated with, it is a sunrise sector. It is not a old sector where you have to think only about equity. I think there is a lot of opportunity to growth. PM Swanidhi is a big enabler. I'm sure government may be having other areas, other ways, human resources and things like that. And last but not the least, usually credited, you would have studied with microfinance. When you give credit, when people borrow a lot, there is always a worry that they call it debt trap. People then will compromise on their health and things like that. What we find in PM Swanidhi is reverse. These people are spending more on education, more on health, and growing their businesses. So it's a holistic development. That's what this scheme has ushered in. I congratulate the government for doing this. I hope more such schemes of solving, government acting as an enabler and solving credit, market failures come in. And thanks once again for this opportunity. Look forward to hearing views of everyone and contributing to this discussion. Thank you.
Please take a more time. So please, because it's always good to hear. So please feel free to tell some other things that you had already planned.
Ma'am, the academic will go on till the bell rings, so I can go on for my classes are usually 2 hours, ma'am. Okay. Okay. So I'll just tell you the one more conceptual issue which is very, very important for the poor. And this is not socialist or anything. This is the idea of poverty trap. Idea of poverty trap is, usually you go and test. So let's say you have again going back to, I'll give another example of the vendor that I met. This guy would do seasonal. You'll have the seasonal people who sell Rakhi during Rakhi season, diyas during Diwali, then candle during some other festival, and this is this person. And he would do raincoats during school opening. And then some 2-3 festivals came together. Now when 2-3 festivals, Ganapati came together, let's say, you need some money, what they require is 20,000 rupees, 50,000 rupees. So the problem is, this is called poverty trap. Suppose if we give them 50,000 rupees, their marginal returns are very high. But currently the fact that you're poor, you don't have access to credit. And the fact that you don't have access to credit, that's why you're poor. This is why it's trap. Somebody has to pull them out of that trap. And we find, one of the interesting evidence that we find in PM Swanidhi is that those who have taken second and the third loan, their growth is much higher than the first loan. Those who got 50,000 rupees, I'll give you some estimates. They're growing at 30%. 30% annualized. The business is growing at 30%. Marginal returns to capital is 10%. Look at these statistics. For instance, digital adoption. This used to be 40%. Now 80. I'm not surprised when Madam said 6 lakh people, 6 lakh crore transactions. We are tracking 5,000 vendors throughout the country for the last 4 years. Same people, it's a panel. 83% are now doing digital transactions. It used to be, when we went 3 years ago, it was 43%. And you can see the numbers here, in all dimensions. There is housing stability. This is one of the biggest thing. People get thrown out of their houses when they default. What does the housing stability mean? Default on rents. And default on rent and you're kicked out. And that has increased dramatically. You see the numbers here, they are not. 66% households, say that their housing stability has increased. And this is about food and nutrition. This is the point I was trying to make. So all in all, what this scheme is doing is pulling people out of poverty trap. And I think there is a case for thinking like this in other areas also. Maybe there is something in agriculture. For instance, we have tried our PSL approach. So the best part here is you give 3 loans and you are on your own after that. It looks very cruel, 3 loans and you're on your own. After that, there is no 4th loan. I think that is what is required to solve problems here. Because once you give 3 loans, at least if you can do well on that, then maybe you should do something else. Even after 3 loans, government giving you unsecured, subsidized 3 loans for over 4-5 years. If you're unable to do well, this will be 10-20%. Maybe you should do well. Other schemes of the government should take care. I think other schemes like Mudra or PSL in general should adopt this model. Where government becomes an incubation center, people get in, some people fail, they go out of the system, maybe take care of them with other ways, and those who succeed grow and become. In fact, when we say 80% of the country is entrepreneurial, unfortunately, it's not that they are all entrepreneurial skilled or anything. It's out of not having a choice. It is better if 30% become entrepreneurs and employ these 70%. The 70% who are now forced to become self-employed may not be there very entrepreneurial or risk-seeking or anything. So PM Swanidhi is that filtering process, and I think the government has got this one right. I think we should think about such schemes elsewhere also. Madam, I'll stop now. Otherwise, people are looking at me. I can go on. Thank you so much.